Hey guys, so welcome back to the channel. I actually wanted to react to this Jubilee video that just came out. I actually wanted to live stream it, but unfortunately, I guess since I've never went live on my YouTube channel before, I had to request permission, and that takes 24 hours. And I just kind of want to get into it now because I saw they uploaded this video yesterday, and to be honest, I've always wanted to be on a Jubilee video. I think I'm actually on their mailing list, though I'm not a very big content creator, but I saw that this might be a good opportunity to watch this, react, and then give my own take, or maybe even further, I guess, dig into some of the points that the vegans might make, or even some of the meat eaters might make, because I know obviously it's a Jubilee video, it's very long, but I'm sure that some of it is still edited down, or maybe things are kind of cut out of context, or not necessarily cut out of context, but maybe some additional context is missing, though I doubt that they do that. But sometimes I think when you're in the heat of the debate, you kind of forget points and you wish you had said a certain thing. So anyways, I just kind of wanted to react to this video. It's gonna probably be a long video. I'm gonna try to fast forward through some of the things that I feel like maybe they're just kind of, maybe I clarify already my perspective on it, and they're kind of just repeating the same thing over and over again. But in case you're new here, just a little bit of a background on me. I've been vegan for about 9 years. I would say that at the beginning I wasn't fully like vegan. I just was mostly plant-based. So I really got into the ethics or the morality behind veganism maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm not very well educated on all the statistics or the science. I know generally enough to kind of scrape by, but I'm the type of vegan that primarily focuses on the ethical treatment of animals, or the ethics behind eating animals. So that being said, let's get started with the video. I'm gonna kind of let it play, and then provide my sort of reaction to the video, which I probably should get my headphones.
Animals are put on earth to be eaten by humans. So I'm Bella. I am a carnivore, so basically that means I've been on a carnivore diet of eating only animal foods for the past 6 years. I was also vegan for 6 years, right before I went carnivore. So I feel like I do have a pretty good sense of how I feel, my health, and the purpose of the food that I'm eating with both lifestyles. So when I was vegan, I actually lost my period. So I was no longer fertile. I had extreme skin issues, psoriasis, cystic acne. I had also mental health issues. I used to be a classical pianist, and I studied at Juilliard for 2.
I'm just gonna cut right here because a lot of this is hard to break down exactly what was happening, and they kind of go into it later. I just feel like this is not a very good way to spend our time talking about this specific example, and it's not to discredit her, but oftentimes when people talk about these kind of things, about their experiences as when they were vegan, where they weren't, when they started eating this, when they started eating that, the science is there to help you with certain deficiencies that you have, whether you're iron deficient, or like this woman says here, she lost her period. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Don't exactly know how that could happen or why. I'm sure that it's. I'm not saying that that can't happen. I just don't understand it. But a lot of that is a non-issue. If what you feel like your diet was deficient in some mineral or some sort of amino acid that contributed to this factor of you losing your period, I would just say, could you not have gone to a doctor and figure out what exactly that mineral or that deficiency was and find a way to supplement that? Like, it seems kind of like a waste of time, or it just seems if you are vegan and you care about animals, why wouldn't you take the necessary steps to find out what that deficiency was? And we don't know what she was eating. She says that she ate a whole food plant-based diet, and she followed all the rules or all the dietary guidelines on how to eat a whole foods plant-based diet, but we don't know. That could have been she was eating a whole foods plant-based diet of nothing but rice and beans or broccoli or lettuce. So we just don't know, and it's just a non-issue. We're not here to talk about your experience as what happened to your physical body that you could, because this happens on both sides of the coin. There are people who are vegan, and you see it in the news, who are vegan and are malnourished. There are people who are meat eaters and are malnourished. Like, it's not a very good talking point or a way to spend our time talking about if the animals are here to be eaten by us, because the whole premise of this argument banks on the fact that either it's a religious standpoint that you believe animals are here to be eaten by us, or it's a health standpoint that you think that we need the nutrients to survive on these animal proteins, when obviously that's not the case, because there are vegans who have lived long, normal lives that do not eat animals. So I just wanted to kind of point that out, because a lot of times, this is a common talking point, and it's even to vegans. I will credit the non-vegans as well. A lot of vegans will say, "Oh, ever since I started eating vegan, I had more energy," and that could be the case. Most certainly could be the case, but that's not why we are going vegan, right? It's a benefit that might come with it, but everybody's different. Me personally, when I first went vegan, I really didn't see a difference at all. But then again, being a meat eater at the time, I didn't have health issues. I didn't have sleeping issues or acne or anything. So nothing necessarily changed when I went vegan for my physical or I guess the anatomy or chemistry of my body. But it's just not. We're trying to focus on why. Why are we eating animals? This sort of thing. If you care about animals, you would look into the efforts that you can take if you're vegan, to not eat animals, but also correct any diagnoses or symptoms that you have with your body, in this case, if you lose your period. So just something that I would say about this specifically. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit just because that's kind of our whole talking point.
It's kind of amazing how that works.
Yeah.
As coming from a hunting and conservation background, and also in ag, you'll definitely learn where the denser protein comes from and the higher quality protein. I personally have been, for the last 7 or so years, but basically my whole life, I've fed my family off of almost 100% wild game of some type, whether it be deer or elk or pigs or ducks. You definitely have a closer feel to what you're consuming when you have full control over it. You're not buying it from somebody at the grocery store that who knows where it came from, how it was handled before it got there.
I always think that this kind of, I wouldn't say argument, but I say justification for eating animals is always kind of, in my opinion, it just seems weird. Like, even he, in the way that he put that, sounds like he has an issue with taking the animal's life, but that it's something that we must do. When you do it yourself and you know that this is not going into it, the slaughter, the inhumane treatment, that it has a different feel, but it still has a feel. You know what kind of feeling I have when I eat broccoli and carrots and lettuce and rice and beans and seitan and tofu and tempeh? Nothing. It tastes good and it's delicious, and that's it. I'm not. So the point I'm trying to make is, like, even in the way that he describes that, it sounds like that there's some small part or some part in him inside of himself that definitely knows what he's doing is sad for the animals. So I always find that kind of argument or that justification for eating animals a little bit funny. And to credit, or not to credit, but to point out also what he said before he started talking about, it's funny how that works, but like, that again, this is anecdotal, because she started eating animals, and now she had corrected her issues with her period, but I bet that there's somebody that's vegan that did the same thing, so it's just, it doesn't matter. It's not a really good argument for eating animals, and I think his justification for hunting is always an interesting one. So let's go ahead, continue.
And I think they're here for you to eat. I don't think strictly for us. I mean, whoever needs that protein takes that protein, and it's been that way for millions of years.
So I'm a raw meat eater, meaning I only eat raw animal products. And I found that, finding myself here, I had to go through a long, extensive journey of finding the truth about what is true about our diets, about nutrition, about the world, about spirituality as well. And I think when it comes to thinking about if we are meant to eat animals and that animals are meant to be eaten by us, we have to remember that we are at the top of the food chain. And being at the top of the food chain, it doesn't mean that we can just go on a rampage and do whatever we want, kill animals and eat them all, but it comes with a responsibility. The strength of being at the top, having the conscious ability to make those long-term decisions and put in the long-term investment to raise animals for food, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of knowledge. And that is something that we humans have the power to do. And so
if it takes a lot of knowledge and research and time to find ways to show respect to the animals, then why not do the most respectful thing you could do and not eat them, right? Everything that this person is saying, and I think that's the thing about when you have debates between two different sort of oppositions, right? A lot of what somebody can say can sound virtuous, can sound righteous. The things that she's saying sound great, right? They do. Like, I agree with the premise of what she's saying. Put in the research. I'm not a very spiritual person, but if you're a spiritual person, more power to you. But the spirituality of knowing where your food comes from, how it's made. I wouldn't say that we're like the top of the food chain as far as, I guess, prowess or the ability to hunt or the ability to, I guess, be a predator. But, our intelligence plays a very big factor in why we are technically what people will say is top of the food chain, right? Because if we see a lion in the wild, we can buy a gun, or we have the intelligence to create tools to deal with a lion, right? I mean, good luck, but that's the whole argument, right? That's the whole point that meat eaters will try to make, right? Is that we're the top of the food chain, we're the apex predator because of our intelligence. So everything that she's saying, if you feel that way, that you should know where it comes from, put in the effort to understand your food, put in the effort to respect the animals, why not do the most respectful thing and not eat them? It doesn't make any sense. I will say, I think based off what she's saying, being a spiritual person, it's the same way as religion, and it's like there's another unknowing factor or influence that is influencing your decisions. And if you're basing your morals off of spirituality, I'm not really sure how to have that sort of conversation with you, because you're going to just say what feels right to you, even though she said she put in the research to understand a little bit more about her animal, about where these animals come from and where her food comes from and how they're treated. But the science is there, the data is there. You can easily find what happens to animals, what the processes are, what are the legal practices, and what these animals go through on a daily basis on a mass scale. So anyway, I'll probably fast forward through this talking point, because she's just gonna go on about under the being top of the food chain and caring for an animal, and it's there to be eaten and killed and taken for us. But if God put animals on this earth to feed us, then why did God give them the ability to feel pain? Why did God give them the ability to suffer, the ability to run away? If he put them there for us to be eaten, then then in my opinion, that wouldn't make much sense to do, right? So now the vegans are going to come in. So let's see what they have to say.
I think it's incredibly self-centered to say that animals have been put on this earth to feed us. Like, I don't think we should act like the world revolves around us as humans. And you say, that we have the power as humans to raise animals for food and to farm them. We also have the power not to do that. We have the power to treat them with kindness and compassion. And I am a factory farm investigator, a slaughterhouse investigator. I go into these places. 99% of the animal products in the United States come from factory farms. And I've been in these places. It is hell on earth. There's nothing humane that happens in those places, even when they claim that it's ethically sourced, when they claim that it's humane, it is not. There are animals screaming, there are animals dying, there are animals languishing in their own feces on certified humane facilities. And we have the power not to do that. And I think that's the conversation we should be having, not that we have the power to do it, and so that we should.
I do agree with that sentiment. The reason I disagree with the prompt is that it felt a bit too like anthropocentric for me. Like it's very like human supremacist in a sense.
Yeah, and you know, coming from him, I think that's the thing that a lot of people have a hard time gripping and understanding is when you the way you describe having power over these animals because we are stronger than them, we are more intelligent than them, is definitely a supremacy thing. I am more superior to you, I am better than you, I am more intelligent than you, I am more powerful than you, so I don't care what happens to you. I'm going to use you for my own benefit because we, quote unquote, need you to for nourishment or for, I don't know, resources, clothing, jackets. Yeah.
It's like I do eat meat. Like I'm omnivore, I guess, but I don't think that their express purpose is, you know, for us to consume them. Like we do live, you know, they're a part of the land, they're a part of the cycle. We do live with them and we do owe them a degree of respect. I ultimately do oppose the current standard that we have of like factory farming. You know, this is a big intersectional thing actually where it does impact more than just, you know, the environment. It leads to a lot of like indigenous land theft, and to that extent as well, like it's eating up a lot of land. So naturally, I feel like I do resist factory farming and advocate more for sustainable, but not to the extent of like no meat at all. Like I don't think eating meat is inherently immoral. There could be.
The thing about sustainable farming, or what do they call it, regenerative farming? The thing about that is, I'm going to try to touch on this very briefly because I don't want this to be a 2-hour video, but if we use, to my knowledge, currently we use somewhere around 65% of our land mass for factory farming, right? If we were to use 65% of our land to house millions and billions of animals, right, to be eaten, how is now, instead of having hundreds and thousands of cows in one warehouse so that we can be farming them, how is now switching to a place where they're going to be freely grazing the land on an open space on a huge farm? How is that going to reduce our land usage when now the cows are going to be not confined to a building or a warehouse, but now freely roaming and freely eating grass? Like, obviously we want, like, the most respectful thing is let them be free and go and eat grass, right? And go do their thing. But it doesn't make sense as far as we can't convert all of our land usage for livestock, for animal agriculture, into this regenerative farming approach, because it doesn't make any sense. We don't have the land to do that. We just don't, right? So I always think that that's something that people have to consider when it comes to regenerative farming, or I forgot what he said, but it just doesn't make sense. We don't have the land usage to do that.
Be a lot more respect towards life and seeing it more as equal rather than like, oh, we're at the top.
So to say that animals are placed on this earth just to be eaten, it's like saying you agreed with the fact that black people were considered just to be slaves. They were only here just for slavery. And if you go back in time, looking at ancient history within even especially just America itself, if you look at history, right? A picnic. What do you think the word picnic comes from? It's a picnic, right? So you get it, hang up from a tree, and then now you're having a picnic, eating your animal flesh around this person because that's how you see them. So you're seeing this animal as the same type of individual. Like the animal has no life, it has no existence but to fuel your supposed protein needs that you need, or supposedly your health was not good because your personal experience, but to say that that's your personal experience justifies everybody else's choice that they should eat just because 6 years you did it, you tried it, but now 6 years you're doing carnivore, oh, it works so well.
Yeah, for you to discredit my own experience,
yeah, but that's
with
your own
my
experience,
vegan
right?
diet,
You can't just
6 years of
assume
vegan
that
diet.
eating
So
animals
are you
is,
saying that I did it wrong?
No, I'm not saying you did it wrong.
Right.
That's your own personal
And that's why I said
experience.
it, because
Exactly.
this is my personal.
So how can you agree that everybody should eat animals?
I never said that. I feel like
didn't hear
everybody
anybody say
should eat
that.
carnivore.
Well, I think she's being a little bit disingenuous because you're on a YouTube channel, you're on a debate with vegans, and you're trying to come to a middle ground. So if you don't think that everybody should eat animals, why are you on this? Why are you on the panel? It doesn't make sense. So and then, you know, even like she said, are you saying I did it wrong? We don't know. Who knows? We don't know if she did it right. We don't know if she did it wrong. We don't know if she was getting all her nutrients. We don't know. So I think his point is extremely valid. How the whole point of you being here is you're on the opposing side, saying that we should eat animals, or animals, you know, it's meat eaters versus vegans. You're here to justify why you eat meat, why you eat animals. If you aren't here to advocate for eating animals, then why are you on the panel? It doesn't make any sense. So I think she's being a little bit disingenuous here. And, you know, his talks about slavery, I know a lot of people always get very offended, and it's funny because it's always people who might not have been affected by slavery because they are not of that cultural background. But, you know, I think the point he's trying to make is the way that we talk about them, the way that we talk about animals. They're here for us. Who cares? They're just animals. They're nothing. They're not smart. We're more intelligent. We're better than them. They're here to serve us. These are similar things that people have said for decades and decades and decades and centuries to people of lower class, whatever lower class in any sort of way, whether it be based off of financial standings or even, you know, race and religion. It's what people have said across the test of time to justify why they would mistreat humans. So I think that's the point he's trying to make. I know a lot of people really get offended about that sort of statement, but it's something to think about. Think about the things that you say about why you eat animals, and replace that, you know, because I'm more smarter or more intelligent than a pig, of course I can eat them. Replace that with the word dog. Replace that with cat. Replace that with another human being. You don't do that stuff, right? You don't kick a dog. You don't kick a human. So why do you pay somebody to kill pigs or to abuse or be cruel to pigs? I don't know. I lost the word there, but you get my point, right?
Form of social injustice. There was a time when gay marriage wasn't legal, when black people were slaves, and now there's animals that are kept in factory farms and slaughtered for their flesh. What's any different about that? Yes. Because you can't talk to them in the same language. There's plenty of animals that are smarter than humans. A three-year-old child has the same intelligence as a pig. So.
I want to jump off that.
Yeah, he's gonna change the subject here. I did see a little bit of the video, and that's exactly what the previous speaker was trying to say. You know, back when women weren't able to vote. And things like that, other sort of social injustices, when those things were, I guess, prevalent at the time or present at the time, people used to say things like that to them. You know, oh, who cares? They're just women. They don't deserve the right to vote. So how is what you're saying now to justify why you eat animals or why you have them enslaved for your consumption or your usage? How is that any different? So I think it's a very valid point.
Real quick, just to talk about the enslavement of animals in our society today. And I want to ask you specifically, you said that you feel close to the animals that you murder, slaughter, and rip away from their families. Do you ever feel or have any sympathy for what the animals go through when you kill them, how their family feels? Animals are the same, all animals are the same, and especially animals that you kill. To humans, in all the ways that really matter, they feel pain. They experience joy. They have families, and you are taking their life away from them when you have other options available and you don't have to make that choice.
In the same way people own pets, they bring pets into their own care, into their own hands. They love them, they house them. They guarantee that these pets are given food, given shelter. It is no different when we are raising animals for food. And I think if there's
I just want to talk on that because it's kind of a difference, right? There's adopting a pet, or I guess I would say buying a pet, right? And then there's people that rescue animals. And follow me along here, right? So when you buy a pet, why do you buy a pet? Why do you buy a dog? Why? A lot of the times people will buy a dog or a cat because they like that type of dog. They've always wanted a pit bull. They've always wanted a husky, right? It comes from a place of I don't want to say selfishness, but it comes from a place of your own wants of, oh, I've always wanted a husky, right? So I don't know if having a pet is the same as raising an animal to be slaughtered, right? Because if that was the case, then I would assume that she would be okay with, if I have a dog, right, and he gets sick and they have to put him down because he's sick and he's young. Let's say he's, I don't know, 4 years old, and dogs live up to 15, 16, whatever. He's 4 years old, he's sick, and the doctor says, we gotta put him down, he's not gonna make it, you know. Would you be okay with eating that dog? No, right? So is it the same? And maybe she might say yes. If she says yes, I don't know what to tell you, bro. I don't know how you guys feel. If somebody told me they were okay with eating their dog after they've bonded to it and you've developed a relationship with this animal like it's your child, yeah, I don't know. That's just crazy and insane. And I would say, I wanted to talk about that too. There's a difference of buying a pet versus rescuing an animal. I don't think I would buy a pet. I used to want a dog, I always wanted, what are they called? Like a Boston Terrier or a pug. Like those are always my favorite animal or favorite dog. They were so cute with their smushed faces. But I don't think I would go out to a shop and purposefully buy an animal because I want to have a dog, you know? I think it would take me rescuing animals that are going to be put down or euthanized or don't have a home, regardless of what kind of dog it is. So it's not the same. Having a pet and rescuing an animal and raising an animal to slaughter are completely different. If you think they're all the same, I don't know what to tell you.
Ground here that we can all agree on, it's that factory farming is unethical.
If factory farming is unethical, why do you contribute to it? How do we avoid factory farming? That's something that people need to think about. Is factory farming is a product of us being so good at what we do. Us humans being so efficient. Factory farming is the most efficient form of feeding civilization because we have millions of animals and it's very easy for us to continue breeding them. And if they take up too much land space, well, I guess we could just put them in a giant warehouse, feed them a bunch of crap, inject them with a bunch of hormones and supplements, and then slaughter them on mass scale because we have to feed the population. It's a product of us being efficient at what we do. So if you don't support factory farming and you're against it, how in the world do we switch away from that and continue to consume animals? It doesn't make sense. It's not a very good argument because the alternative to it is not it's not possible. We just do not have the land space to do it. It's a product of us being efficient. So
I personally do not support factory farming. I do not purchase from places that support factory farming. I support, local farmers markets, local butchers.
Yeah, but and this girl's gonna say it in a second here.
Locally sourced, connected to.
I'm just gonna say it. The vegan girl's gonna say it after she's done speaking. You can watch the video if you want. Watch the Jubilee video. I don't want to sit here for 2 hours. It doesn't matter where you buy your meat from or who you buy it from. The animal is still slaughtered and still killed before it even reaches an age that it can grow its full lifespan. If you want to do the research yourself, cows live up to 25 years, roughly 25 years. They're slaughtered. Females are slaughtered once they stop producing milk, roughly around 4 to 5 years old, maybe 6. I don't entirely know. Do the research yourself. Chickens, hens are rapidly producing eggs at an accelerated rate. So once they stop laying eggs, they're also slaughtered. Male chicks are slaughtered on their day of birth. They don't even make it past a day of being born. So it doesn't matter where you get it from. The animals are still slaughtered way before, they can live their lifelong age, way before they're adults. And it doesn't matter where you buy it from. They're still going to these slaughterhouses. So it doesn't make it any better. What's the point of treating an animal so well and so oh, he goes and he gets to graze out on the grass and he has tons of fun. And then when he's 4 years old or when she's 4 years old and she's not producing anymore, we send her to slaughterhouse. Like, what is the point of that? What is the point? Why not just let them live long, happy lives and leave them alone and drink something else, right? So
I would
I'm
ask
gonna
other
fast
animals.
forward past a little bit of this just because they're kind of saying what
Shelter
I say.
and love. Same thing for when we eat animals. We are,
Do you
we
personally
benefit
do that
from.
to the animals that you eat, or do you just assume that's happening behind doors that you've never seen?
I make that highly conscious decision to make sure I'm voting with my dollar to support the highest quality livelihood for animals.
seen how
But
that
I am
works.
very.
That's a good point. You know, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of times they'll say, you know, the government needs to change things. The government needs to make things illegal, or the government needs to subsidize dairy and meat products more. But you have to understand, just like any business, you vote with your dollar. You vote with your dollar, and your dollar is very important. If I go to McDonald's, if McDonald's released a vegan burger tomorrow, right, and that vegan burger was sold out constantly, and all of their other products, all their animal products, were just not selling. Say like 0% sold. You think McDonald's is going to continue to buy cow patties, or you think they're going to switch to vegan burgers because the sales are through the roof and they can't even keep up with the demand? They would probably switch to a vegan burger, right? So your dollar is very important. If you are against something and you don't support something based off of any sort of injustice that you don't support, then do not pay for it. If you are the type of person who knows and has seen the footage of what happens to these animals, but you feel like it's not going to change, I'm just going to keep buying it because it's not going to change, then you are a part of the problem. If you stopped paying for those things, eventually they would stop funding them. They would switch to something else. You have a voice. You have more of a voice than you think you do. It only takes one person to start a movement. And if that keeps going and it starts to snowball, you know, that's the effect of activism. And you can't say that things are not changing, because how many restaurants have vegan options? How many grocery stores have vegan sections and tons of plant-based milk and plant-based cheeses and plant-based eggs and plant-based cream cheese? Like Philadelphia, one of the biggest cream cheese producers that I've known for my entire life since I was a kid, now they have vegan cream cheese. You can't say it doesn't make a difference, because it most certainly does.
I'm in contact with the farmers that I'm sourcing my meat from. Have you visited a regenerative farm? Have you met your local
I
ranchers
actually
and
have
your
a
local
bachelor's
farmers?
degree in sustainability, and I did an extensive project on regenerative farming.
I've had the same questions. I've been exposed to the same things when I was vegan. I was in the vegan community for 6 years. For me, when it was too far is when I lost my period. I can't have children if I don't have a period. So I became infertile. And do you know what the vegan community told me? That's fine. That's actually a sign of health, and that's totally normal. So I admit that there was a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, that I don't understand. I mean, you're going to have people that are going to say weird things on both sides of the fence. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I'm not a woman. I've never heard not having your period is normal. I don't know if not getting your period, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak on that. It sucks that if she was in a vegan community and she felt like people were not helping her, it does suck. Like, that happens on both sides. You know, and there are people that are vegan and are very vindictive about people's decisions, or opinionated about, you know, what people are saying, and they don't have the right approach when it comes to interacting with other people. And maybe she had those people telling her, you know, speaking in her ear, you know, not really helping her in other ways. Instead of saying it's normal, if this is something that really concerns her, instead of saying, oh, that's normal, blah blah blah, you know, help her find how to correct her issue without going back to eating animals. Because unfortunately, now she's, you know, back to eating animals. So that kind of sucks, you know. It doesn't help. So you have to really understand the person that you're talking to and what kind of help and information they need and how to help them. And you're not going to be good at it. You're not always going to be good or be the person that needs to get through to them. You know, sometimes somebody else might need to be the one to say what you're saying, because how you say it is very important, and I might not be saying it in the correct way, but some other vegan might have a better way or a better approach or something that resonates with her. So she obviously didn't have the best support. Now she's eating animals. That sucks, but what are you gonna do?
And brainwashing going on for myself, and I'm speaking for myself. I can respectfully listen and understand your point of view. I was there myself, but my brain just opened up and I had to face, is it going to be my health? Or is it going to save the animals no matter what?
At some point, you have to decide, is it worth sacrificing my health for a religious ideology?
Fully healthy.
It's not a religious ideology, because a lot of people say that. Religion is based off of a faith, right? The faith of something, the belief of something that you cannot see. You can most certainly see what happens to the animals. You can most certainly make the decision, I don't like that. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be the reason why that is happening. So I'm not going to partake. And when you see your loved ones who are against that, but still pay for it to happen, but they might not know the full extent of what their decisions are doing, or how it's influencing what happens to animals. It sucks. You want to help them. You want to tell them, hey, you really love chickens and you love petting them and you love cuddling with them and they're your favorite animal. But do you know when you eat eggs, you know what happens to the chickens? So I just think it's not a cult. It's not a religion. It's just it's an inaction to something that you don't want to partake in because of the violence behind it. And unfortunately, when you see the people around you that you love partaking or participating or supporting, you feel like you want to have to intervene and let them know. But unfortunately, not a lot of people are very responsive or receptive to that kind of information, because it's definitely goes against everything that you've probably learned for your entire 20 years of life or 30 years of life of eating animals. So and to another point, there's, like she said, there's always going to be harm. There's always going to be animals that are either killed or their lives ruined by us, by humans, whether it's building a house and pushing out all the critters and squirrels that lived in that tree, right? Like, that's a part of it. It's unavoidable, and that's the point of veganism, is reducing the amount of suffering or animal exploitation or your influence in the harm done to animals to as far as practically possible. If I was dying tomorrow and the only thing that could help me survive was, I don't know, an anti-venom or something that came from animal testing, I would have to make that conscious decision to say, I don't want to die. I have a family. I have children. No, I don't want to die. So that's the nature of surviving in the world that we live in. My only then option as a vegan is to say, hey, I would really like if there was an alternative to this that didn't come from animal testing or animal exploitation. And we see that today. A lot of products and medicines are now being developed without animal testing, right? So your voice is heard and you have to express that. So, yeah.
I think if you're an anomaly, there can be an exception to be made, but I've been vegan for 13 years, vegetarian for 23 years, and I'm extremely healthy. I get blood.
Yeah. So again, I'm just going to fast forward through this just because it's a bunch of anecdotal stuff of, well, I experienced this as a vegan, you experienced that as a vegan. It's not really going to help us in the conversation of, is it ethical to eat animals? Is it moral to eat animals? So I'm going to fast forward to the next prompt.
Pieces. Nothing humane happens along the way. Animal rights are just as important as human rights.
I would say, if you ask me, I would say yes. But obviously, I think people will try to say that I'm saying animals and humans are equal. Well, non-human animals, because we are animals, right? Non-human animals are equivalent to humans. And as me as a vegan, I would say no, obviously not. We don't give cows the right to vote. We don't give pigs the right to vote, or dogs the right to vote, or to concealed carry. You know what I mean? But the main point is, I think that animal, that non-human animal, deserves enough rights to be more valuable, its life be more valuable than a sandwich, than a deli meat, than a coat, a jacket. It's as simple as that. So I don't know if I really want to dive into the animal rights and human rights part, because that's my wholehearted stance. If you want to watch the Jubilee video on this specific prompt, you're more than welcome to watch it. Support Jubilee's channel. But it's as simple for me as I just think that they at least deserve the base level of rights, at least the same as dogs and cats in whatever country you live in. We don't eat dogs and cats. There's a lot of even when we see videos of soccer players who kick their cats and then face a scrutiny of negative press on all over the internet because they kicked their cat. I just think that these other non-human animals deserve that same sort of respect and rights, plain and simple. So I'm just going to skip to the next prompt.
Slaughter an animal.
I think there are especially inhumane ways to slaughter an animal. I'm actually currently wearing an ankle monitor, and I'm facing up to 5.5 years in prison for rescuing chickens from a particularly cruel slaughterhouse.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome.
It's Purdue's Petaluma Poultry Slaughterhouse, and they were exposed for boiling chickens alive and other atrocities, and which is obviously sadly more common than people think in slaughterhouses. But even, while I am grateful that I was able to save a few chickens from an especially horrible fate, I know that there's still no humane way to kill an animal.
I look at it in the same sense that humane and slaughter, actually, they don't go together. I don't see how that's possible. Yes, of course, in the past, would we have considered that slaughter, what I'm talking about is human sacrifices to said gods and different ideologies. They would take the first virgin or whatever and sacrifice them, and she didn't want to go, but of course, the people thought that that's the way it should be. So to me, humane and slaughter don't go together, so I don't see that there's possible to have humane slaughter.
All right.
Yeah, I actually really like what the first person said, in that there's no way to humanely slaughter an animal, but I can think that there's definitely less humane ways or more extreme ways to slaughter an animal, right? And a lot of vegans make this point that the word humane comes from or the definition of humane is to show compassion or benevolence. And so how do you show compassion to an animal by taking its life at a quarter of its lifetime? These animals are babies. I think like I mentioned earlier, dairy cows are usually sent to slaughter anywhere between 4 to 6 years of age, and they live up to 25 to 30 years. I don't think that there is a humane way, and there's definitely, most certainly, less humane way to slaughter animals.
Right? Can we have the disagreeer step forward?
So the way I see it is that if we are not using the animals for food, there is a chance that out in the wild they are being hunted, eaten, killed by other predators to be used as food at the end of the day. And I see it as like the scarcity of life is what gives our lives value. Right?
I like this conversation because it's something that I have thought about, but I've never seen anybody, I guess, bring up. She said the scarcity of life, which is essentially, right, the need for survival, right, the scarcity of things, and paying respect to the animal because if I don't eat it, it's gonna get killed anyway, and I need it to survive, and it's here to provide me with sustenance, and it's a part of this, I guess you'd say, cycle of life, or we're all connected and this whatever. But a lot of I would say Native American cultural stuff decades or centuries ago, that they would kill an animal and then say a prayer. When you think about that stuff, or when I think about that stuff, I think of why were they saying prayers? Why were they thanking the animal? And in my opinion, I'm sure maybe if I research it, I should look it up if anybody's ever come to this sort of or found knowledge about this, or even maybe current Native Americans, what their opinion is on that. But I always thought of it in a way that they said these prayers because they knew that taking the animal's life was wrong, but that they had to take the animal's life because they needed it to survive, because there was a scarcity of food. Just like this lady just said right here, there's a scarcity of food and we need it to survive. So I have to take its life. And that's, in my opinion, that's why the prayer after hunting these animals was so important. It was, I'm sorry that I have to take your life, but I need to survive. And if they had an abundance of fruits and vegetables and whatever, I feel like that they probably wouldn't hunt animals, right? Because of their respect for them. And I think it's interesting when people in today's society try to use this as an argument or justification, in that, oh, I take the animal's life, I pay it respect, and it's going to nourish me, and I thank it because it's going to provide me with food for the winter or a jacket. It's like you don't live in that world anymore. You don't live in a world of scarcity. You live in a world in abundance. You have grocery stores at every corner. You have DoorDash, Uber Eats. You've got all these ways to get food that there's not a scarcity. And even if you live in a food desert, I'm sure that you have grocery stores and options within your driving vicinity or walking or any sort of way of vicinity to get food. Now, if you're a type of person that you really don't have food around you and you're homeless and the only thing you have is a bow to hunt animals and you need to survive, like, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a very different living situation than the majority of people, not only on this podcast, or not podcast, I'm sorry, not only on this panel, but also people watching this video, right? So that's my opinion on the whole food scarcity and paying respects to the animals and thanking it. It's just weird to me.
Right, the fact that death is coming for all of us is what makes our lives so beautiful and meaningful. And animals fully understand this. When they're out in nature, they're living in constant awareness.
Oh, my headphone disconnected.
Of their own survival.
Okay.
They play this balance between being predator and being a prey. They know that survival is never guaranteed for them. And
how do they know this? So you mean to tell me that deers are like out in the wild thinking, oh man, sucks that I might die today, but I mean, that's just life. I might run into a random lion or a random mountain lion or wolf that's gonna come and eat me, but this is life. Like, it's so weird to have that sort of stance on that, but then also not think that animals are intelligent or have a level of sentience, but they understand the way the world works, and that eat or be eaten, and there's one day they might survive and the next day they won't. I don't know. This is a weird take to have.
And so it's the same understanding that makes our lives so meaningful. And so for myself, when I'm eating my raw meat, I am eating this with the utmost highest sense of gratitude, knowing that this flesh came from a live animal, that this life had a sacrifice. It comes with a sacredness to it.
Oh, you see? I'm glad that I said what I said earlier, because this is where she's going, right? This like sacredness and spirituality of connection to these animals, and it came from an animal and it's keeping me alive, and I knew that I had to do it because if not, I don't eat this animal, I'm gonna die. It's like, where do you live? You don't have options. You don't have grocery stores. You don't have vegetables. You don't have rice, grains, beans, legumes. I don't understand. And
I'm trying to work towards more and more, using every single part of the animal, not only eating the meat, but like using as much as I can to honor the life of the animal. And I think in today's world, it's so normalized to practice low vibrational eating habits, like not knowing where you're.
It's no shade on her, but sometimes like when you have to know that when people don't live in the same reality as you, and I'm not saying like because she's not vegan, I'm saying low vibrational frequencies, spirituality, it's not something that, like, you can use that to justify anything. I could say that the vibrations of the stones were telling me to go kick a dog. Like, it's not, we're not living in the same realm of reality, so it's not something that I feel like I could engage in. I don't know if maybe I know that there are obviously other vegans who are very spiritual and into vibrational frequencies or whatever, you know. That's probably a talking point for those people to have. It's not. It's just only going to make it harder to get through to that person or have a genuine conversation, because you're just gonna, at the end of the day, you're gonna be like, oh well, yeah, you're right. It sucks what happens to animals, but you know, when I rub the stone, it tells me otherwise. Like I don't know. So
Attached.
I'm just gonna fast forward past this a little bit.
Could be killed in a horrible way. I mean, first of all, we're breeding these animals into existence and we're farming them typically on a mass scale. There's not really, you know, that element of it. But also, I could say the same about you or myself. There's a chance that when I walk out of here today, someone will stab me to death. That is a real possibility. Would that make it the most ethical thing for you to more humanely kill me right now?
But it helps us understand like the scarcity of our life, the value of our lives, knowing we could walk out of here and be stabbed. That's why our life is so meaningful.
Yeah, what I would say is, if your life is so meaningful and anything could happen and you could die tomorrow, if you genuinely feel that way and you make the choices to prolong your life, to value your life, to cherish the things that happen to your life, why don't these animals deserve the same sort of respect or the same chance at those opportunities? If they have the opportunity to, or not opportunity, if they have what she said earlier, they had the capacity to think, man, there's going to be days where I might die or days that I need to survive. Like, that's the way the world is. If they have the capacity to think that, why wouldn't you choose the choice that lets them survive so that they can continue to experience life? Because you don't know when they're going to die. And just like she's taken the necessary steps to extend her life because it's a beautiful thing, why wouldn't you let the deer live its life as far as it could, or as long as it could, until, you know, it gets eaten by a predator? But that is the nature of life. Not saying, you know what, I'm going to intervene because you're gonna die to a wolf anyway, so might as well go to me. So if I had that sort of mentality, wouldn't that then provide a food scarcity for the wolf? So should I care about the wolf because I'm eating the wolf's food? Because I'm saying I need to eat this deer because I feel like I'm rambling, but I need to eat this deer because it provides me with sustenance, and my life is so valuable, but now I'm taking food from a wolf that was going to eat that deer, and now that wolf has to. I don't know, it's just like it doesn't make sense to me, if you ask me. So yeah,
Meaningful. That's why it's so meaningful to eat the animal knowing it comes with a sacrifice. It doesn't have to be an inhumane way. You can still respect and honor that.
I don't find meaning in my life because I know that I might get stabbed to death when I leave.
You don't find meaning in your life because you know that our life is temporary here, that we are going to die one day. That is what makes living, like, each moment so valuable.
I disagree. I don't think that I'm afraid of dying or value every moment of my life more because it could be taken away from me. I value the connections that I have with other individuals on this planet, and I don't think about dying. I mean, that's really just not the meaning of life to me. It's not to exist or exist longer. It's about what we do while we're here.
And I think the main takeaway here is sort of what you said, where it's about the idea of, yes, all we truly have is our life, and all animals have is their life. And so I would pose to you, who are you to take away another animal's life, when really, in essence, like you were saying, that's all we have? Who are you to give death to that animal? Who are any of us to do that? In that regard, our lives are our own, and we shouldn't be taking the lives of others when we don't need to.
Again, for me, it's so important that we talk about.
Yeah, I think he summed up what I said in 2 minutes, and maybe that's why these Jubilee videos are edited and only an hour long, because, man, do I ramble.
What is going to support optimal health? Anne said she wants to survive. I want to survive and thrive. You talked about wanting to have a meaningful life, meaningful conversations, maybe meaningful friendships and relationships. If eating meat, sustainably raised, can support somebody having a meaningful life, I don't think we should be shamed for choosing to eat meat. So you guys said the word anomaly a lot with my case. If you take 2, 3, 4 hours just immersing yourself in the meat eating community, you actually will see a lot of vegans who have had to quit that diet because their health also declined. So in my eyes, I don't.
But what were they eating? Right? What were they eating? Were they eating just fruits and veggies and salads? Were they eating just rice all day? Oreos all day? Like, yeah, I think oftentimes a lot of humans, a lot of us in general, we kind of get caught up in this space of thinking that, like, just because a lot of people are feeling the same way as you, you have to remember that there are 7 billion people on this planet. Or I think it's more now. 8 billion? 9 billion? I don't know. Whatever. And you're going to find people that have experienced the same thing as you. But the point that they're trying to make is, even she said it in her earlier statement, I want to thrive as a human. If you care about what happens to animals and you want to thrive, why would you not put in the extra research to find out how to thrive without influencing what happens or contributing to animal exploitation? Why would you not put in that extra effort to do that, right? It almost feels like you're trying to take the easy way out and say, well, these cows and meat has all these protein and amino acids in them, and that's what I'm missing, so I'm just going to eat this, cheeseburger or hamburger or steak or whatever. When it's like, well, aren't those amino acids and proteins also found in other areas? If you really hate what happens to animals, why don't you get them from other sources? It's really not that hard, man. Like, I mean, it takes a little bit of an effort because you eat animals for 20, 25, 30 years of your entire life, and now you have to switch everything around and learn about how to get nutrients from food. But once you start getting the ball rolling, man, it's so easy. It's really not that hard. But a lot of people go into it thinking, oh, I'm just going to eat salads. And it comes from a place, oftentimes it comes from a place of selfishness, because it's like, oh, I'm fat, or I'm getting, I'm gaining a lot of weight and I want to lose weight. I'm going to do a vegan diet. And it's like, oftentimes that's kind of where that kind of stuff starts. So you're already starting off on the wrong foot. You're already, shooting yourself in your foot, or whatever the saying is. But yeah,
Don't see this as an anomaly. A lot of people are suffering because they think this vegan diet is the best diet in the world and you can save the planet, but it's not.
Well, I think the issue is that the people you're talking about see veganism as a diet, and therefore they may be extremely restrictive with what they're eating. But there is a way to eat plant-based and vegan that is extremely healthy. And I mean, there are a lot of testaments to this. And I also have seen the videos that you're talking about.
Yep.
And it's usually an insane switch up. It goes from one end to the extreme other end, like raw meat. And I think that there is a lot to be said about consumerism and social media behind a lot of these.
Yeah, I think she said it pretty nice. A lot of times when people tell me that they want to go vegan or they want to try vegan, I don't tell them like, hey, tomorrow just like stop eating this, stop eating that. Now you're just going to eat tofu and rice and broccoli and cabbage and whatever, right? I always tell them, start small, think about what you eat throughout the day. Have a plan. Instead of when you go to the grocery store and you buy, meatballs for your pasta, buy the plant-based meatballs. If you go and you're used to having, fried rice, get the tofu option. So like have the same foods, but maybe switch out small things here and there, because the main thing that you're gonna have to switch out is the protein, right? So try those small adjustments and slowly adjust to it so that you can get used to the change, because it is a lot. A lot of people, and this goes with anything in life, some people can do it, right? Some people could say, I want to lose 100 pounds. I'm going to go from eating 5,000 calories a day to 2,000 calories a day, and I'm going to go to the gym, and some people can do that. But to completely turn the leaf and switch your entire life around based off of something that you want, it's so hard. And a lot of times people set themselves up for failure, because they're like, okay, I want to lose weight, so I'm going to just eat nothing but salads. And it's like, well, instead of doing that, why don't you like eat what you've been eating, eat the same thing, but get a cheeseburger, right? But no cheese. Instead of getting salad dressing, maybe just get I don't know, like a light oil dressing. Instead of getting a sandwich, get an open-faced sandwich, so you're eating one less a slice of bread. Like, make those small adjustments so you can slowly get used to the changes in your body. And you know, if you find that you can, like she said, if you go spend 3 hours and look for people that are experiencing the same sort of things, I'm sure you could find it. You could do that with anything on this planet. You could, if you Google search long enough, you can find people that are going to relate to you. It's just the nature of the world that we live in. You're not as unique as you think you are, and there are people that share the same sort of experiences as you, and that's the amazing thing about us being humans. But we don't need to affect other animals' lives to thrive as humans, and we shouldn't need to, see them as a resource because we want the most out of our human lives and the most nutrition when you can obviously get it from somewhere else. So, and she did say something.
Diet, and therefore they may be extremely restrictive with what they're eating, but there is a way to eat plant-based and vegan that is extremely healthy. And I mean, there are a lot of testaments to this. And
I think that's the one thing to remember is people will say, when I switched to this diet, my acne cleared up. When I switched to this diet, blah, 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 blah. We don't know what you were eating before, or what amino acids or nutrients you were missing before, and you might be getting it from somewhere else. But if you just took the time to go to a doctor and maybe a dietitian or a nutritionist to help you based off of your morals, what you're missing, or do a blood work test and see what you're missing. The only way that we can truly say, is a plant-based diet and a meat-based diet, are they both sustainable enough to thrive as a human being? And luckily enough, there's plenty of research, plenty of documentaries, and plenty of scientific data behind that to say yes. Yes, you can thrive on a plant-based diet. Yes, you can thrive on a meat-based diet, an animal-based diet. So if you had the option to thrive on a diet but not cause harm, not have somebody die for your ability to thrive, why would you not choose that option? So a lot of this, that's why I don't like to get in the conversation of, but when I was vegan, when I went vegan, I started, getting better sleep and this and that and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, that's good. That's you. That's your own individual experience. If that works for you, great. But you can't sit here and say, when I started eating animals or when I started doing this, this and that and this happened, because what you're saying is my health is more valuable than another being or another living creature. That I don't care. I don't care what happens to this living creature because now, I don't get headaches anymore. It's like, well, couldn't you just find out what it was that was causing that and maybe take the next step to say, well, I started eating this and my headaches went away, but I feel kind of bad that, these animals are dying for my headaches to go away. What is it that causes it? And do the research, go to the doctor, go to a nutritionist, find out what's going on and correct those things without supporting supporting what happens to these animals.
I also have statistics.
It didn't for me, so
I believe you and your story, and I acknowledge your story.
Referring these studies on veganism, have you read any on the other side?
I have. Just recently graduated college, and I got my degree in sustainability, and one of the entire sections we had in one of my sustainability politics and conservation class was discussing with hunters and looking at all of these articles in depth. So even if I wanted to be biased, I was forced to look at it from an unbiased perspective to obtain my degree.
I wish more people did that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just feel like it wasn't very nice to make that assumption about me.
No, I was asking a question. That's not. I didn't assume anything. I was just asking innocently. I was just curious. To have this style of life, as you guys so eloquently put it, this style of life, there has to be death. It's just how it is. And I know that hurts your guys' feelings or whatever the case is, but it isn't, like I said earlier, it's a necessary evil.
I agree.
Yeah.
That there has to be death in order to support any lifestyle and any food chain, and I know there is death that goes into the crops that I buy at the grocery store, but I think that it is important to cause the least amount of death possible. So that makes me wonder is the meat that you hunt the only thing you eat, or do you also buy produce from the grocery store? Because if so, you're causing death from those vegetables and death from...
I'm not arguing that.
Yeah, so I don't think that it hurts my feelings that death exists,
like
it's
I
just
said,
less death.
It's a generalization. I'm sorry if I put that on you incorrectly.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to have an open discussion and try to find middle ground. I always find it weird when people talk about hurting people's feelings because, man, you know, it happens all over the place. I could post a picture of my food and there'll be a troll being, oh, but bacon. And it's like, you literally came here to comment on my food pic because you wanted to tell me that you like bacon. It's like, you could say that people's feelings get hurt both ways. It's like, we're here to just have a sophisticated, respectful conversation about the topic around vegans and eating meat or eating animals, and there's no need to say stupid shit like that. Like, oh, we hurt your guys' feelings, because we vegans understand that there has to be death, there has to be, animals are going to die for us to survive as a human race. They're going to die to, we have to protect our crops because we have to eat. We have to. You don't have to eat animals. You just don't. The science is there. The data is there against you on this, that you don't have to. If you have some rare disease that you can only eat cow's flesh, that's a very different story. But the majority of us do not live in that reality. So,
well, I don't think any vegan thinks that really. It's just less death.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
It's not the absence of
No,
death.
that's totally fair. I mean, I wasn't referring to like plant death, which is obviously a thing as well. But to answer your question, no, as I said before, I feed my family probably 90% stuff that I've taken in the field, or my kids or my wife. We all do this to support our family. We grow a garden in the back. We harvest our own vegetables.
well, I don't know if he meant, I guess he meant 90% of what he does, but I'm assuming he doesn't feed his family 90%, wild game or deer meat or deer flesh or whatever he's hunting. So I'm assuming he was saying he, like, 90% of whatever they, like he said, he has a
I keep
garden.
what I buy at the store to a very, very low, because I don't want to keep harping on factory farming, because we all agree that that's not ideal, right?
Yeah, we all agree that factory farming is not ideal. What's the alternative? Regenerative farming? We don't have the land space for that. So what's the other alternative? Sustainability farming, having pasture raised cows. How are we going to do that if we're already using up majority of our land just from factory farming? So if you agree that it's wrong, why not just choose not to contribute it? He's choosing to hunt. I mean, I guess like hunting is like the least impactful way of contributing to animal slaughter, I guess. But he said he goes to the grocery stores and he likes to keep his purchases of the grocery store very minimal. So if that's the case, why not grow what you can, like he said, grow what you can, and then anything that you are missing, protein, whatever, protein sources, why not buy that from the grocery store? Why hunt? I don't know. Oftentimes I feel like the hunt argument is kind of trying to get masked over, oh, I need it to feed my family. When you do it, it's more about in my opinion, it's more about the enjoyment of hunting, the more enjoyment of shooting a gun, shooting something. Because a lot of the people in the space, Joe Rogan particularly, such a huge, influencer, probably a millionaire, billionaire, whatever, talks about hunting to feed his family through the winter. My guy, you got money. You're good. You have the money to buy products, to buy produce. You don't do it because you need to. You do it because you enjoy the hunting experience, and what comes with that is, meat for the winter, whatever, animal flesh for the winter. So every time the hunt debate comes up, I always find it very disingenuous, because it feels like it's just trying to be masked by something else. And they're trying to say that they do it because they care about the animals and it's sustainable and it keeps them alive. But yet again, they have plenty of enough money to just go and buy products.
At one point, you referred to factory farming as a necessary
produce.
evil.
Yeah, for some, yes.
So and that kind of answered my question for you. I guess one question I have is, would you all support shutting down all industrial slaughterhouses and all industrial factory farms? Would you support phasing those facilities out?
I wouldn't say phasing out necessarily, but definitely looking at the way things are done in a more humane way, I guess.
Yeah. See, it's funny because that you can't say anything. You know that a more humane way. What? How is it more humane? How is it different? Like, what do you want to stop? You want to stop the the videos that you see of people overly abusing and exploiting these animals, or just the whole process entirely. He's even smiling, so you know that it's people trying to grasp at straws. They're trying to find any sort of way to justify what they do when they know that it's just not right.
I'm glad you said that, because when it comes to humane, we talk about honoring the animal and this and that. So we have to understand that we're not in that animal's mind or that animal's spirit. We're just thinking, okay, I honor you to feed me. And the animal's like, dude, I really didn't want to be killed.
Yeah.
But I guess you need food, so all right, I can't stand up against your blade or your bullet.
Every small farmer who owns animals that eats them in the end, people who own cows, own chickens, and a lot of people close to where I live own chickens and stuff like that. Like, there is a bond. They see them as part of their family with the intention of eating them at the end of their life.
Is that not weird? Imagine the dog or the cat that you have at your feet right now. Imagine the bond that you've developed with that animal, seeing them happy, seeing them sad, seeing them get hurt, seeing them come up to you when you're hurt and caring for you and licking you and trying to make you happy and wagging its tail and going for walks, and then saying, you know what? I'm hungry. It's 4 years. You're 4 years old. You're as big as you're going to get. I guess, I'm just going to eat you now. Like, that's so crazy. That's crazy. I used to live next to a guy who, he used to raise pigs in his backyard. I don't know if it was legal because this was in Florida. And I remember everybody in his family, when it came time, even himself, when it came time to kill the pig, they all were sad about it. So for what purpose then? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's so weird to me.
You don't own your family. You
What an
coexist
interesting
with your
Okay,
family.
maybe that was a wrong choice of word, but it's like you protect your family. You protect them. They're part
From
of your
death.
family.
As soon as they're at the slaughterhouse, there's no one to protect them. As soon as they're at the slaughterhouse, they are screaming at the top of their lungs, begging for help, and nobody will
I
help
understand
them.
that, but I think I think we're all in agreement. Factory farming is bad.
I'm not talking about factory farming. I'm talking about a slaughterhouse.
slaughterhouses, factory
A slaughterhouse
farming.
is necessary for the type of agriculture that you are referring to.
For
that you think is
small
so great.
farmers.
They send their animals. Most of the time, most of those small farmers send their animals to slaughterhouses, often
Most,
to
but not all.
industrial
There
scale
is a way.
slaughterhouses. So I have a question, and I really want you to answer honestly. Not that I think you wouldn't, but if you raise an animal, you gave them a name. Say it's a baby pig. You raise them from a baby. You give them a name. You love them, you take care of them, maybe they even, as a baby live in your house, you treat them like your dog or your cat. Could you then slit their throat, look into their eyes and slit their throat when they're 6 months old? That's how old pigs are when they reach slaughter weight, they're 6 months old. Could you slit that 6-month-old pig's throat?
Yes.
You could do that?
I could do that.
Honestly?
Because I understand the cycle of life, and I understand that this pig,
Could you slit your dog's throat?
I have invested this time into raising this pig, into developing the
Answer the question.
nutrients, into living a safe, comfortable life, and in turn I get to be nourished and taken care of as well.
So
and I don't see, I feel like it's almost delusional to not accept that as a reality.
So do you have a dog?
It's not the thing about being delusional, about that being not accepting of reality. It's like, I think that you're being delusional because you're telling me that is the reality of life. Yet there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of vegans on this planet that don't participate in that don't support that don't do that. So where's the delusion? If you're the one partaking and saying, man, nobody else is partaking, man, they're delusional, this is life, but other people are not living by that standard or living in that way, who's the delusional one, right?
I don't have a dog, but I work with dozens of dogs every day. I understand the relationship of dogs to humans, dogs to dogs, dogs to other animals. Yes.
Well, I guess, do you imagine if you had a dog who you presumably loved, do you think that if you were just really hungry one day and you didn't have access to any other raw meat, that you could slit your dog's throat?
I mean,
My
think
family
about the
was starving,
way
goddamn
these
right.
dogs, there's many dogs that are stray or maybe put in high kill shelters that are going to be dead just for existing. Like, why not take the dog in? Like, I mean, I'm not saying I eat dogs. I don't eat dogs.
No, I realize that.
But,
It sounds like she's about to say something that supports eating dogs, though.
if it were this hypothetical situation, giving this dog that guarantee of being fed, guarantee of safety, guarantee of being loved and taken care of, if that is exactly how it comes down to, I have no other thing to eat, possibly nothing at all, then yes, I would have to eat the dog. I have no choice.
And that's the funny thing about it, is that if you feel that way and you you love the dog and you have that a bond with it, and you only would eat it if you have absolutely no choice to eat the dog, then why don't you do that now, right? Like if you think that everything is the same, a cow, a dog, a pig, a chicken, and they have the same sort of life energy or whatever, or role to play in life, like if you feel that way with a dog, that you would only do it if you absolutely necessarily have to, then why do you do that with a pig? Like, why do you do that with other animals? Why do you do that with cows? Why do you plan to have plan to raise a cow or pig to slaughter to eat, but don't do that with a dog? That's what this gentleman on the right was talking about earlier, that comes from a place of supremacy. That comes from a place of my values, my wants, my needs are more valuable than your life, and I need them to survive, so I'm going to do what I want with them because I can't do them. So yeah.
The majority of people wouldn't do that.
I understand that. My family has come from a country where they do eat dogs, so I've seen this happen. And if they're not eating the dogs are just stray.
Yeah.
The way Asian cultures view pets is very different from here in the Western civilization. People who own pets here, like a lot of countries in Asia are like, why do people even do that? But people eat dogs there, and it's the unfortunate, harsh reality.
And I understand that people do eat dogs, and I also understand that most people in the United States think that that's wrong. I don't personally see any moral difference between eating a dog and eating a pig, or eating a dog and eating a chicken or a fish. I think it is morally equivalent, and I think that it's wrong for us here in the United States to judge people in other countries who eat dogs while we're eating pigs and chickens. But that is an issue that comes up for me, because so many people who defend eating meat would never eat a dog, and they think that that's just such a horrible thing to do while they're eating a pig.
And I have a hypothetical question for you. I would, if you could answer this.
Yeah.
If it really came down to your health versus the vegan ideology, and you absolutely, came to a point where you realize that it's actually deteriorating your health, even though I understand that you're very passionate about the animals. I really admire that. Everything you're doing is wonderful. But if it came down to your health, personally, I pray that you choose your health first. But I'm asking you, would you choose the vegan ideology, or would you choose your health if it came down to it?
To me, it's not about the vegan ideology. It's about animals' lives, and their lives.
What about your health? I'm curious where your health plays into.
Sure,
this.
I get your question. I just want to clarify that first, that it's not just an abstract ideology. It's a real life or death matter for real animals, and that's what we're talking about today. So much suffering for real animals. I will say, I live with a chronic illness and a disability. It's an autoimmune disease, and there are people who do test on animals to try to cure my disease, and I wish that they wouldn't. And I know that it's going to drastically shorten my lifespan, most likely, if I continue to live with this disease, but I still do not think that it is okay for animals to be experimented on in laboratories to cure my disease, because I do not believe that my life is worth more than theirs, and I don't think that they should have to suffer for me.
Vegans are.
Yeah, very well said. And I think, you have a voice, so like I mentioned earlier, the options that she has is to obviously let her doctors know that I wish there was an alternative to this. And I think we won't I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime or what. Maybe we will, but these sort of things are changing. There are a lot of I guess products not related to food, healthcare products that came from animal testing or were developed through animal testing, or still are, and they're definitely drifting away from that, and finding different ways to test. And I think especially as science kind of expands and our better understanding of human anatomy and how things interact with our body, we will have ways to test, especially I think, never mind, I'm not going to go into that. But anyways, with development of like AI tools and stuff like that, we have ways to test how chemicals are going to, certain specific chemical compounds will affect the human body and stuff like that. So I think things will slowly change. It's not going to happen overnight, but I hope, eventually we have better options, or options that don't come from, animals. I think I might skip this next prompt only because, I don't know. I don't think that anybody's better than anybody, but, I think everybody has their own judgment on themselves to live up to. And I think if you really care about what happens to animals, and you feel like you're a good person, and you love animals, then you should probably look into what you can do about not contributing to what happens to these animals when it comes to animal agriculture. So I'm gonna kind of skip over this bit because that's kind of how I feel about it. And I don't want this video to be super long. It's already 1 hour and 20 minutes. Oh my gosh. I think I'm gonna just do the I'm gonna answer this prompt. If I see myself switch to the other side, who knows? I know in my core, in my heart of hearts, hell no. I will never go back to eating animals. No. But how many people have said that on both sides? I would never go back to eating animals. I would never go vegan. Blah 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 blah. I don't know. I find myself as a very free flowing person. I don't like to get caught up in the future or the past or anxieties or things like that. So I don't tend to usually think about things involving that far into the future other than death. But yeah, I don't think I see myself switching ever. I think that as much as I don't think veganism is part of somebody's identity, I think it's very much become a part of mine, and I don't think I could ever contribute to or pay for the slaughter of an animal or when it doesn't need to happen. So no, I don't see myself switching to the other side. So we're just gonna go to the last prompt and kind of wrap this up, get some takes, and see if we
Thrive
can
and
just
be
wrap up this
healthy
video.
on this lifestyle, it's not cheap. It is not the most affordable diet at all. And I will tell you, being a carnivore, eating only meat, eating only animal foods, my grocery bill is less than when I was shopping for vegan. So I recognize that to eat only plants and only fruits and only grains and all of these starches, the grocery bills add up. So that's why I do believe that you do have to be quite privileged, especially if you want to feed your family as well, to be able to afford a vegan diet and also thrive on it.
There is like an accessibility discussion just from socioeconomics of affordability, as we kind of talked about before, food deserts as well. Like there are these realities and nuances to it that should be acknowledged. And I personally am not too familiar with.
Yeah, I think a lot of vegans understand the nuances. You know, it's not really a topic of conversation that we like to focus on because it doesn't really matter. You know, I'm not gonna sit there and talk to a guy in Alaska who, lives in the middle of a food desert and there's nothing around him but snow and ice. And granted, I'm sure that's probably not the case, but you know, in the instances that is the case, right? I live in a cabin in Alaska and I fish and hunt polar bears for food, whatever they have to do. Obviously there are those nuances, but I'm not going to sit there and talk to that person and try to tell them, hey bro, but too bad. You shouldn't be, you need to survive. I'm talking to you here, you live in the States, you live in the UK, you live in Europe, you live in a country that has accessibility to things, and to mention what she said earlier about grocery food bills adding up, I can understand that she can eat, animal flesh and feel satiated for longer periods of time, and that feel cheaper. But, rice, beans, pasta, lettuce, bananas, tofu, broccoli, peppers, onions, garlic, they are dirt cheap. They are the cheapest things that you see. Well, maybe not the cheapest things, but they're so cheap. I have a hard time believing that a vegan diet, or I would say plant-based diet, is more expensive than a typical omni or meat eater diet. Maybe similar price to a meat eater diet. I'm sure the science is out there. I could look this up right now if I want to. Should I? No, I'm not gonna look that up. But all these fruits and grains and stuff like that are dirt cheap. Where it starts to get expensive is when you're starting to include convenience into factor, right? And that's just the nature of the human race. We're all about being more efficient and having more convenience, and we're lazy, and that's fine. That's the way that we are. It's the way that we function as human beings to try to survive. You know, when you start factoring in convenience into your shopping, like buying canned goods or this and that, or buying mock meats and things, plant-based chocolates, which are probably like those things are extremely expensive because we are the minority, right? So those products are a little bit more unique. They're more niche. They're going to be more expensive. You know, vegan Reese's peanut butter cups are probably like twice the price as regular peanut butter cups. And that's not because, you know, a vegan diet is more expensive or vegan products are more expensive. I think that's more a nature of that this is a company that has the structure and the facility to make a certain product a certain way and infrastructure to make it that way, that introducing plant-based alternatives is a whole new structure that they have to build up, and things over time will slowly get cheaper and become more affordable. I know that Just Egg, which is egg supplement or egg mock egg, whatever you want to call it. I remember the bottles being pretty tiny and being like $9 a bottle, and now it comes in like a big carton. That's not a big carton, but the carton's probably like twice the size as the original thing, and it's about the same price as what it was before. I think it's a little bit cheaper. So as these products are being made, and you know, specifically the mock meat stuff or the substitute stuff, as those things get made and be purchased and the infrastructure starts to build and the facility starts to have the production line to do that, those things will then go down in price because it's easier to make. But as far as it being more expensive, I don't know. Is it, going back to the prompt though, I will say, is veganism for the privileged? Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything that we do in the Western world comes from a place of privilege. Anything that you do that another country does not do comes from a place of privilege. Places like America, Canada, England, Europe, these places that have more infrastructure or what's the word I'm looking for? I guess where civilization started sooner. I don't know, more time to develop, more developed countries, I guess you would say. Obviously, things that you have access to or access to more things is definitely going to be privileged. But I think that only comes from a place of the fact that it's what you eat is going to determine how more privileged you are. If I'm a vegan and I'm eating nothing but Beyond Meat, like, yeah, that's pretty privileged because Beyond Meat doesn't make it in Africa or Egypt or China. Like, yeah, I'm more privileged. But privilege doesn't... If you're more privileged, if you have more privilege to take different approaches in your life, then why not take advantage of that privilege and not contribute to animal harm or animal exploitation, right? So I would say, yeah, veganism is a privilege and you should take advantage of that privilege, or we should all take advantage of that privilege in the fact that we have so many options that maybe we should stop buying these products and supporting things that the majority of us are against, but we don't know or care enough to take the necessary steps to get away from that. So let's see what they have to say. I'm going to try
Typical
to wrap this
cost
video
of
up.
having a vegan diet. I've always had meat in some aspect within my diet. That is, what we grew up with, and it was often the cheaper option. And as I buy my groceries now as an adult, it's definitely what I go to in terms of like, calorie and nutrients per dollar kind of thing in my head. I do acknowledge that I do have a lot of ignorance towards like the nutrition aspect of it, of a vegan diet. I've never had those like resources or taken the time, I guess I should say, to access those resources. Yeah.
All right. Can the disagree step forward?
I want to start off by saying that a vegan diet and a plant-based diet is vastly cheaper than one that relies on animal flesh and secretions. Pasta, beans, potatoes, bread, lettuce. All of these items are usually very affordable and staples in most of our diets, I would assume. The real privilege that comes into play with this prompt is the fact that some people think they are privileged enough to take another's life when they have other options available to them.
I'm not sure that's the definition of privilege she's talking about.
I would say in this situation, when we're talking about privilege as a whole and being privileged enough, quote unquote, to have a vegan diet, the real privilege we should be talking about in this group discussion is the privilege people feel that they're able to and entitled to buy animal products from these animals
That's
that have suffered.
That's interesting. I never thought about it from that way, but and I guess I definitely agree with what he's saying, and I never thought about it in that aspect of you live in a world that you have options, and you still feel like it necessary to take an animal's life. You are privileged enough to participate in taking that animal's life. So I never thought about it in that way, but I think it does definitely ring true to what I was saying earlier about how privilege, that we all live in a place where we benefit from some sort of privilege, that vegans are privileged because we have options there, and they're also privileged because they have options but they still participate in animal exploitation.
And when it comes to being privileged, the opposite thing is being oppressed, right? So access to high quality nutrient dense food is used as a tool of oppression. So I'm Vietnamese and my parents are immigrants from Vietnam. They lived there throughout the height of the war. And so living in a third world country, especially during a tough time, meant that good food was rare. Meat was a luxury. People were pretty much forced against their will to go vegan. Vegan options such as rice, potatoes, wheat, nuts, dried fruits, maybe some veggies, that was all they had access to or could afford. And you see this throughout history. In many other countries during times of war, what happens? There's heavy food rationing. Heavy food rations, specifically on the nutrient-dense foods such as meat, eggs, and dairy, because these foods are reserved for the people on the front lines, for the people who have the resources or the connections to get them. And then for everyone else, us ordinary citizens, us peasants, we're forced to eat the cheap fillers, the corn, the soy, the rice, the wheat, the potatoes, the fruits and veggies.
The what? She said the cheap fillers, right? Cheap? That's what she said, right? Cheap. Okay.
And so it just goes to show during times of oppression, meat is a privilege. The vegan diet is forced upon people and is the
She said meat is a privilege?
unfortunate,
Okay.
harsh reality for people who are actually oppressed.
That's how I looked at it when I saw privilege. I was like, meat clearly was considered a privilege. You
Yes.
had to be king and queens to eat that. The peasants were supposed to eat like, just bread and things of that nature. And, you had the Daniel fast, the Daniel diet, all these different things. Meat was not even considered there. It was more so, like I said, it was of privilege. So when I heard the prompt, that's the first thing that came to my mind was clearly meat is considered a privilege.
First of all, vegan diet to the average American citizen isn't more expensive. I literally live in a trailer with 3 dogs. I am on EBT food stamps, and I eat 140 grams of protein a day. I track everything I eat, and I would say I spend less than $8 a day on my groceries. A block of tofu has 90 calories to 10 grams of protein, costs $1.75, and there's 5 servings of that in each block that costs $1.75.
Let me just say, 5 servings in 1 block of tofu. No wonder I gained so much weight, because I eat half a block. Probably sometimes, no, I wouldn't say the whole block. That's too much, but half a block. I'm glad that she's going into the breakdown on what is it, the protein to calorie consumption conversion. So let's see what she says.
And the cheapest groceries throughout history have been rice and beans, which are both full of nutrients, and also soy, which you call a filler food, even though it's a complete protein.
Actually, you initially said, and you made your point, that there's no way eating animal flesh is going to be cheaper than eating only plants. So the difference for me is when I eat only plants, I feel hungry about 30 minutes after I eat.
Now, what are you eating, though? You know what I mean? Like, what are you eating? What kind of plants were you eating? Cucumbers? Zucchini? Carrots? What were you eating?
When I eat only meat, I feel hungry same time next day. So in my head, when I do the math, I'm actually spending less actual dollars on my grocery bills because I need less food, because meat is so nutrient dense. And I will confirm that yes, my vegan diet grocery bills were cheaper than now my carnivore diet grocery bills. And that's exactly what's happening there. That's why.
That isn't true for everybody. I mean, I get 13,000 steps a day, and I'm a weightlifter. I'm in the gym for 1 to 2 hours every single day, and I'm not hungry after I eat. I mean, I eat nutritious protein-packed options like tempeh, seitan, and tofu that leave me feeling full. And there is a poor way to eat a vegan diet that doesn't leave you feeling full, and I believe that might be what you were experiencing if you had that.
I ate a whole foods plant-based diet.
That's not necessarily healthy, though.
Yeah. Just because you say that I'm eating whole foods plant-based doesn't mean jack shit. What were you eating? I could say I was eating a whole foods plant-based diet and I was eating nothing but bananas, apples, watermelon, broccoli, carrots. That's it. Does that sound like a healthy diet to any of you? No, of course not. So it's annoying because I feel like she's getting defensive, and now I'm getting a little bit heated and annoyed as well. But she's getting defensive. She keeps saying, "Oh, I was doing this, I was doing that, I was following a whole foods plant-based diet." You saying I was doing it wrong? Well, from the sounds of it, yeah, you were. Yeah. So.
I don't think that whole foods plant-based is
So you're saying
baseline
eating
great.
seitan and what else? What's the other
Yeah,
process?
do you know
Tofu
what seitan is made out of?
I do know what it is. It has a
It's
very long
fermented
ingredients
beans.
list. And tofu is healthy for you?
Yeah,
Not at
it's
all.
processed
There's so many
soybeans.
GMOs. It's not good for you.
That's not true. Tofu is a staple in plenty of Asian cultures. It's been around
I'm
for
Asian.
thousands of years.
It's not good for your health.
Organic tofu is good
It
for your
really
health.
ruins your hormones.
That is
not
that is a
true.
myth. The type of estrogen that is in tofu is completely different from human estrogen.
Yeah, it's human estrogen and then plant-based estrogen, which, to my knowledge, phytoestrogen. Our body can't even absorb phytoestrogen. So I think that's the point that she's trying to make. And the GMO thing, if you're so against GMO fruits and vegetables or crops, then you should not be eating animals either, because animals, you wouldn't say that they're GMO, but they've been selectively bred for hundreds of years to be fatter, more to produce milk fat at faster rate. Well, I wouldn't say produce milk at faster rates, because you have to be pregnant to produce milk, but the chickens to produce eggs at faster rates than normal, than what they naturally would do. That if you're so against the exploitation, or not the exploitation, I'm sorry, if you're so against GMO fruits and veggies, why are you not against the fact that we've selectively bred these animals for so long, for hundreds of years, that turkeys and chickens get fatter than they normally do so they can barely walk, that chickens produce 120 eggs a year when they're supposed to produce around 12. And then not only that, a lot of these cows and chickens and pigs are injected with hormones, injected with antibiotics, because they're doing things at such an accelerated rate that their body is so chemically imbalanced that they have to offset these diseases and these infections that they get with antibiotics. If you're so against GMOs and it's not healthy for you, how are you not against what happens to animals? How are you not against the genetic modifications that they've been subjected to for so long, and the antibiotics and vaccines and stuff that they're injected with for you to consume them? So it doesn't make sense. It's a very weird take to have. I think it comes from a place of privilege to say, oh, well, I have the option to not eat GMO foods and just eat meat because meat is not GMO, but it is modified through other influences as well, not just genetically modified like plants might be. So.
And it's ironic for you to say that when you're drinking breast milk.
Oh, thank you. It's like, see, we're all on the same page here.
From cows.
Okay, firstly, you don't know what I'm eating in my carnivore diet. I don't drink breast milk from cows. I actually
milk from any
do not
animal.
eat dairy right now because it inflames me. So you actually mentioned healing from autoimmune issues. The carnivore diet and eating only meats is actually renowned for reversing autoimmune issues. And this whole community stay with this diet because they're finally, for the first time in their life, getting healthy again. But I also understand your point. Even though I still won't eat meat because I support all of this. I'm just saying that my carnivore diet grocery bills are absolutely cheaper than my vegan diet grocery bills. And I was eating a whole foods plant-based diet. So maybe I am wrong that a whole foods plant-based diet is not healthy or the best way to go about a vegan diet. I did not eat a single processed mock meat junk food that they label vegan.
Tofu, seitan, and tempeh aren't processed mock
Fine,
meats.
I didn't try those either. But when I ate whole foods plant-based, I felt hungry all the time. So maybe it just didn't work for me.
I just quickly want to jump in that my chronic illness is incurable. No dietary change is going
May
to
I know
cure
what
it.
it's called?
It's called type 1 diabetes. And
okay. There's a lot of people that have actually managed type 1 diabetes by eating only meat.
I understand that you can manage it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was going to say managed. You can manage it. You can't cure it, right? If I can manage it and not slaughter animals, not contribute to animal exploitation, why would I not choose that option? And that's why this woman is no longer a vegan, because she took the, I guess I wouldn't say quote unquote easy way out. I would just say maybe she got pushed out by other vegan people's opinions. Nothing they said to her resonated her. Maybe she felt attacked because, that happens on both sides of the spectrum. There are vegans that are very aggressive. There are meat eaters that are very aggressive. It's just the nature of how things are in the world and the internet and society that we live in. But yeah, exactly what they're about to say. So maybe I'll just let them say it.
Yes, no, I recognize.
But I just want to make sure that it's clear it's
Absolutely.
incurable, and people shouldn't, go off life-saving medication to try to.
But a lot of people have.
I know a lot of people have
Because they
gone
can,
off.
yeah.
Not for my disease.
Understood.
It's impossible. No one with my disease can do that. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, so we're not
Absolutely.
spreading something that's potentially dangerous.
Well, thank you for sharing, because I wasn't sure what autoimmune
Yeah,
issue.
it's okay. Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're missing the point. Sometimes we take our personal experiences and apply it to the world. That's not necessarily the case. Just because someone isn't carnivore and it's saved their life doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to do the same for another individual. Same thing when it goes to vegan. Just because this person says vegan and want to change their life and their health is phenomenal, that doesn't mean, hey, Bella, you need to go back to being vegan.
Oh,
That's
absolutely,
what
I agree.
You're saying doesn't work for you. And then back to the privilege. I mean, I was raised poor, vegan, vegetarian, and so I don't see how that cost me more. I still was able to, I'm here today. So my mom didn't have that access to buying, easily buying food and whatever. I had to even go live with my grandparents because my mother couldn't afford to raise me and my brother by herself. So privilege, no, I don't see living as a vegan, since we have that terminology now, we all love labels. Since being as a vegan, that I wasn't any more privileged than anyone else.
I think a different type of privilege that I think would be important to acknowledge with your story is that you did have that access to that information, to that lifestyle, even if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Through your parents. Like you did have that within proximity, accessibility to that information. Like you shared a lot of good information, and like I think for me, I feel like an issue I often have, or at least my perception for a lot of, I guess, vegan cuisine is preparation and mealtime and stuff like that. Typically does deter me from, a lot of certain.
See, it comes, the amount of privilege that we have here, I would say just from, in the United States, is from out of convenience. He's saying that what deters him from trying more of the plant-based meats or mock meats is convenience, preparation.
Like meals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that lack of access to knowledge is one of the only reasons that I can understand why someone isn't vegan. We have pretty good access to knowledge in this country, especially people that I talk to in my day-to-day life, but I do acknowledge that that is a big issue, and I think that bridge should be worked.
So that was Jubilee's video of vegans versus meat eaters. I think what she said at the end there is correct. Lack of knowledge. I think a lot of people feel a certain way about something or believe a certain thing, but don't take the necessary steps to find out if that's true, to find out how it's happening, why it's happening, what can be done, why is something the way that it is. We definitely live in a world where we have access to that kind of stuff. So if you take anything from this video, guys, I appreciate you hearing my perspective on some of the prompts and some of the things that people have said. But also, if you are believing in something, whether it's like this woman said about curing diabetes with a meat-eating diet or a carnivore diet, or even something that the vegans said about land, like what I've said about land usage, or the majority of animals going sent to from pasture raised or whatever farms being sent to, like, do the research yourself. Look into it. The research is there, the data is there, the scientific evidence is there. Take the time to research into why things are, and not only how you can do something, but why you should do something. Why should you be vegan? Why is it important for me to care about the animals? It's not always about how to go vegan. The most important thing is the why, and the why is the animals, and that they deserve the right to at least live and be left alone. So thank you guys for watching the video. I know it's a really long one. I wanted to live stream this because, I don't know, just seemed like it would be kind of cool to just live stream it, but I can't live stream for another 24 hours, so maybe another time. But thank you for watching the video. I appreciate you guys. Definitely ask any questions in the comment section. Leave a like if you enjoyed watching the video, and I'll see you next time.